Frameworks beat setups every time. And frameworks are really the key to every successful trader. Any successful trader you speak to has a clear framework of what they do, when they do it, how they do it. And this is crucial to your progression as a trader. Forget setups. Setups cyclically stop working. They work well for a period, then they stop working. A framework constantly develops ideas and recognizes what setups are and aren't working at any point in time. Now I'm going to give you a little example here, but on the 11th of April, I'm going to look into this in much more detail. What exactly makes a good framework? What are the different parts that make a good framework as well? So all that's going to be coming in a live session on the 11th of April. Click the link, subscribe, and you'll be able to come and join me then. So let's go and have a little look at what it is that all successful traders have in common. And one of those things is the ability to ask the best questions, the right questions. Too many people start off trading and they ask questions that essentially provide them answers. Now, of course, any question you want to provide an answer, but they will ask questions like, why did the market do that? Things like, is that a large order entering or is it exiting a position? Knowing the answers to these tells you what did happen. It doesn't tell you in any way what may come next, what could happen, and so you're not developing a new idea. And part of a good framework is something that always looks forward. It looks at what you can do next. So you want to be asking questions more like, how has that move changed the market's positioning? Questions that give you an implication, because implications can provide you with the next leg of a trade. This is all part of a framework, just in the very short term within a day, part of a much wider framework of how you put together all the pieces of the puzzle. So the next thing, let's go and look at just a setup. So this is the framework of how you look at a setup. There's one thing to know a setup. You've got a setup. But the next thing you've got to do, if you've got to ask yourself, well, when does this setup work? I talked about that 5-minute flag to the downside early on in my career when it was working, and this worked exceptionally well. You'd sell the flag, it would break the low of the previous day, shoot down. This was a trade in the DAX, and that became my favorite trade. It would shoot down, get out of the trade, job was done. But the key to this was not trading every 5-minute flag. The key to this was looking for the ones that were going to enable the market to reach the previous day's low. These were the ones that were working, and that's all part of the idea of pre-identifying a trade. You don't want to be just looking, identify something, and then sort of say, well, I've seen a flag, but then I should do this. That's quite reactive. You want to be pre-identifying, in a sense, almost saying to yourself, I would like to see a flag here because that will enable the move through the low. That's a framework thing. That's not reacting to a setup. That's a framework that says, okay, this situation, a setup like this would be very helpful. If it comes along, you've got a trade in that. Next thing to do, execute that trade, because all the pieces have told you that this is what you need to be doing. But execution is one thing. The next part of any good framework is adaptation. Being able to look at this, say, is it still working? Because if you back test something, it says it works a certain percentage of the time, and a 5-minute flag through the lows of the day was working, I don't know the percentage, but almost all the time. That stops working. But if you go on probabilities, it should keep on working. This is where your framework says, no, things have changed. You need to adapt. Perhaps you start looking at this as a failed flag and you start looking at a reversal, and this brings you full circle back to developing a new setup. And that's just the framework around a setup. There's frameworks around all different areas of your trading. So I'm going to look at that on the 11th of April, go into a little bit more detail on it and explain to you how you can how you can develop a framework looking at different tools, looking at context, different types of frameworks that different traders use, and what exactly is going to work best for you. So join me on the 11th of April. I'll be covering all of that and a bit more. Click on the link. I will see you all then.